Alright everyone, this is Ty Everett. I'm the CEO of Project Babbage. Well, first, thanks for taking the time here. I wanted to talk a little bit about what our company is doing to create a more secure and efficient and valuable internet. So at Project Babbage, we specialize in distributed identity solutions. Our goal is to empower users to own their own identities and data, and to create a more secure and private internet for everyone. So we think that blockchain technology, and specifically BSV, is the best way to achieve that. And we're committed to leveraging BSV to build a better future. One of the key benefits to blockchain technology is its ability to enable micropayments. So by using blockchain-based micropayments, we can reduce transaction costs, improve security, and create new revenue streams, right? For everyone. So apps and content creators, they have new ways of making money. At the same time, we can give users more control over their finances, and we can enable them to participate in the global economy in new ways. Another benefit of blockchain is its potential to allow user-owned data. So by using blockchain-based systems, we can create a decentralized network that puts control back in the hands of users. And this can help you build trust with your audience, while also providing a more secure and private way to store and share data. Blockchain technology can offer unparalleled levels of digital privacy. So by using blockchain-based systems, we can ensure that users' data is protected from prying eyes, and this can also give them the ability to control who has access to their information. So this is a powerful selling point for businesses that are prioritizing user privacy and security. At Project Babbage, we understand the potential of blockchain technology, and we're committed to helping our clients realize its benefits. So we've got a team of expert developers and consultants who will work with you to create solutions that reduce your time to market in the industry and help you reach new audiences. So you don't have to go through all of the research and development that we went through in order to truly understand blockchain, its benefits, and how it can apply to the things that you're trying to build. With our support, you can deliver value to your customers sooner and stay ahead of your competition. If you're looking to build apps and services on the blockchain that protect privacy, employ micropayments, and put users at the center, we invite you to partner with Project Babbage. Our team of experts will help you build with the blockchain faster, cheaper, and with less hassle than pretty much anyone else on the market. So contact us today and learn more. And now I have a list of questions. I kind of sent this out and got some questions from people, and now I want to just try to answer these questions here that maybe allow people to understand some of the things that we do. So first question I have here is, what specific use cases and applications does Project Babbage envision for its distributed identity solutions? And the answer to that would be, there are a lot of different use cases for distributed identity. When we think of distributed identity, it's identity that is held by users, that is not controlled necessarily by a single platform. So things like Facebook, you have one identity and that's on the platform. And that can be problematic in case, if you're a YouTube creator and you want to leave YouTube, you can't necessarily do that because all your subscribers are on platform. But if there was an open protocol for things like that, then users would be able to move freely between platforms. Just like kind of email, you don't have one email company. There's different email companies and they're all kind of compatible. So I think distributed identity has a lot to do with users being more in control of being able to move between platforms, having better platform competition, and enabling new use cases that are only possible when there are open protocols for things like user identity, and standardizing the interface between identity and applications. So specific use cases for that, I would say banking. If users have an identity registered with their bank, which usually they already do because their bank provides them with a bank account, and that requires level of trust and identity verification, then the bank can sort of issue identity certificates, for example, to users, and then users can use that same certificate with people that trust that bank. But also, if I want to certify not just this is what this person's name is, but maybe I'm a programmer and I know that I'm a very reputable programmer, for example. Maybe if I'm one of the best programmers in the world, and I know that the people who are friends with me know certain programming languages, I can certify that too. So then anybody that trusts me can know that this person is proficient in a certain programming language. So I'd say that's a useful thing. And so creating protocols and standard interfaces that allow all applications to plug into an identity that's on a user device, I think that's a valuable use case. So people who want to certify identity information and charge for that, so that users have access to that within different applications, that would be useful. And then applications that want to leverage distributed identity and use these standards we've created for plugging into that can allow for now users don't have as much friction on that application because their identity attributes have already been certified. They don't need to be verified again, and that gives better user experience. It also makes your platform more attractive to users because now the user's in control of who gets to see how much of their information. So there are some developing use cases, and I think that as time goes on, people are going to find more specific use cases for distributed identity. The next question is, how does Project Babbage's technology differ from other blockchain-based identity solutions currently available in the market? There are some ways in which we are different, for sure. One of the big ones is that with traditional blockchain as a service platforms, we go basically and we set up a backend server, and it's all on your backend. All the blockchain stuff, you basically have a blockchain backend server, and your application just plugs into that. So users create an account with your application, and then they have some interface to the blockchain that uses that backend service. But in our architecture and with the tools that we've created, we actually move that to the client side. So we actually have all of the blockchain components of the application and the users like creating transactions and stuff and having their accounts. All of that is on the client side, meaning that there isn't necessarily a need for you to run a blockchain backend or a Bitcoin node, which is really, really cumbersome and it's a big hassle to run. And it's also, generally not necessary because of some of the, like if you use a thing called SPV properly, you don't need to have a Bitcoin node. So we have technology that makes it so that users are really the ones at the end of the day who manage their identity. And then that identity that the users manage on the client side, even if it's through your application, like your application for the user is just going to look like any other application. You log in and sign up, but now they have this identity. And then when they go and log in and sign up with another MetaNet app, and we're calling these MetaNet apps because they're user-owned identities using these standard interfaces, then the user is going to be able to use that same identity across the different apps, even though they're logging in or signing up to that other app. So the identities of users are portable, and it's not subject to one single backend where they have an account, and their balance is also kind of, the balance in Bitcoins they have in their account is kind of held by them across all of their different apps. So we'll build your integration in this way, and it will be the same. It'll have the same level of feature parity as any other blockchain integration. It's just now you don't have to run this backend. You don't have to manage users because users manage users because they own their data and their identities. And things run on the client side. So different architectures here. This is much more scalable. And also, like if your application goes down, users still have access to the data that they created with that application. Although there are ways of making it so that if you have things you don't want people to have access to, you can still store it on a traditional Web 2 type system. But now we have the users able to manage certain aspects of their identities and their data without the need for running traditional backend systems. How can businesses and organizations implement blockchain-based micropayments in their existing systems? So we've created software compatible with and protocols compatible with existing systems. One of them is Auth0. So Auth0 is a distributed identity and mutual authentication system. So if you have a web server or web service that uses, authentication, you can add this blockchain option to it, and then suddenly when users log into that website, when they have this identity I was talking about, this client-side system on their device, then the user doesn't need to have a password on your website any longer. And so this Auth0 system is compatible with traditional Web 2, servers and systems like that. It's just something you install, and then it looks for users that are requesting your resources using the blockchain-based identity. And if it sees that, it just basically tags those users so that you know who they are and you can trust who they are. And it uses digital signatures, and that's all seamless. So it's very backwards compatible. Systems that implement it, they don't have to implement it you have gradual, you can do it sort of a little bit at a time, if that makes sense. And so integrating the distributed identity aspects into traditional systems, you can use Auth0. There's also Packet Pay, which is from micropayments. So you can install into a traditional Web 2 application. This software, it's called server middleware, but it goes on your server, and then you can accept payment for doing, micropayments, small payments from the users, like from their identity. They have their balance and whatever. And then those payments are deducted from the user account, and they are sent to your website, your backend, when they use particular functionality. So you have different monetization models. Maybe that's for your non-ad-based monetization model, and you also have traditional ad-based monetization. However it works, we provide systems for allowing those to be incorporated. What kind of support and guidance does Project Babbage provide to its clients as they develop blockchain-based solutions? We have a lot of developer-focused resources. So if you're a developer and you want to kind of do this stuff yourself, you can go read our documentation. We have tons and tons of documentation. I've actually been told from developers that we have so much documentation that they don't want to read all of it because it's too much. I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's probably a good problem to have, that we have, these concept level documentations for a lot of the components that underpin our systems and architecture. We have specifications for these protocols. You just go to projectbabbage.com, and then on the top right, you'll see this little button that says Learn, and it's got a stack of books, emoji thing next to it says Learn. You go there, and you can basically go to the developer documentation, and you can see there's tons of docs on all the different products that we have. So things like Auth0 and Packet Pay I talked about a little bit. That's for developers. If you're not a developer, because you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what if I'm not a developer? What can I do to do this? You reach out to us, basically. And our team basically works with you, and we provide integration support. We provide build out. We'll just build out an integration for you. We'll provide ongoing maintenance of systems that we create for you, and basically understand your use case, and then work with you to develop a development plan to build your app on the blockchain. So that's kind of how we want to help businesses. So businesses that want to, whether they have existing products and they're looking to add a blockchain-based feature or a piece of functionality that could benefit from the blockchain. So things like digital privacy improvements, micropayment-based monetization for new business models, or things like that. Putting users at the center with giving them more control over their data and being more transparent about things like that. We facilitate the types of integrations that can support that kind of functionality inside of applications. And we work with teams of developers on integrating with different backends and infrastructure on basically finding the best way to build what you guys want to build. Next up, we have, how does Project Babbage address concerns about the scalability and efficiency of blockchain technology? So that's a good one. There's a lot of talk in the blockchain industry about scalability and the trade-offs between, scalability and centralization of blockchain platforms. We take a hyper-scalable approach, and we think that decentralization comes with high transaction volumes. People have an incentive to mine on blockchains that have lots of transactions because there's lots of transaction fees, and it's economically productive to do so. We think that's a long-term approach. And so we use distributed ledger technologies that employ extremely low transaction fees so that people can create as many transactions as possible. We've seen, we've seen very high transaction volumes within the systems that we work in, and the infrastructure is definitely in place to handle spikes in traffic and things of that nature using the blockchains that we interact with. So yes, we definitely provide a lot of the improvements in terms of in terms of transparency and decentralization associated with blockchain, but we also think that Bitcoin SV is one of the most scalable blockchains out there, and definitely think that the number of transactions on Bitcoin SV, when you look at how many transactions there have been compared to any other blockchain out there, it's pretty stark difference. And so I think those numbers speak for themselves in terms of scalability and the ability of BSV to achieve planet level scale. What kind of security measures are in place to protect user data in Project Babbage's distributed identity solutions? So security measures employed on the client side. Now keep in mind, there's not one central server that manages all the keys, because every user is their own, identity manager. Users create an account. They have a password and they have a phone number. One of the keys is associated with their phone number, so we can, we have access to that key, but it's a 2 out of 3 system. So their password and their recovery key provide 2 other keys, and so they get a prompt to save their recovery key. Probably some people won't, although they should. But you have your password and you have your phone number, and those come together to create your identity or your identity key. And so the way that user identity is managed in the system is such that there isn't a central place for an attacker to basically steal everything. It's not a crunchy shell model of security. It's got, it's much easier to rob the most secure bank in the world than it is to rob, 7 billion people, right? So we take that approach, and we think that the incentives of going after like the 5 or 10 cents that you might have in a particular application or token aren't really worth doing that on a per user basis, and therefore we don't think that most users are going to be at risk for most types of attacks. The problems arise in traditional internet architectures with tons and tons of really sensitive information being stored in the same place with bad security. And when that happens, then you have data breaches. And we think that these systems, because they're distributed and because users own everything in terms of their identity data, it's certainly less susceptible to that type of attack. Next, can Project Babbage's technology be integrated with existing IT infrastructure and systems? Definitely yes. As I alluded to earlier, the integration with and backward compatibility for existing systems is present within Authwrite and PacketPay. You can just install this into your existing, web server architecture and start benefiting from distributed identity, mutual authentication, or micropayments using PacketPay, as the case may be. And so definitely compatible with existing systems. And if you reach out to us and let us know kind of what your existing architecture is for an application, we think that we can come up with a reasonable and cost-effective way to create a migration path for moving people from the traditional architecture where your application is now to some of the new stuff on the blockchain. How does Project Babbage ensure compliance with data privacy regulations? So I think this is kind of evident at this point, but users have control over the keys that govern access to their data. So everything is encrypted such that only the users can decrypt it unless the users explicitly authorize otherwise. So users in our system have basically a management interface, control panel, where they can choose which applications and which of their counterparties, the people they deal with, have access to which classes and sets of their information. So there's permissions management interfaces within our software, and users are put in control of that, which I believe is 100% compliant with both the spirit and the letter of GDPR and other data privacy regulations. So next question. What kind of partnerships and collaborations is Project Babbage currently engaged in? We're talking with a variety of different companies from around the space, large and small. There were some good operations. Actually, surprisingly, like Africa. You wouldn't think, but the financial infrastructure in African countries isn't as developed as some of the Western economies, but there's somewhat of a leapfrogging effect that's going on right now, where development in these regions is actually easier because, well, I would say maybe it's a little bit because of the red tape, but we've been talking with a lot of different companies, and I think a lot of it though is just there's not as much inefficient but very deeply rooted not bureaucracy but just large institutions with very large network effects to disrupt, right? So because of the lack of those network effects and deeply rooted sort of ways of doing things that we have, well-established ways of doing things over here in the West, we've seen a lot of interest from a lot of companies, especially out of Africa. We've also been talking with a number of different people about creating distributed identity certifiers to attest just to the validity of certain information. And without naming names, there are some really cool projects we've been working with recently that we're excited to share more of what we're doing and announce some cool partnerships. Final question. What is the roadmap for Project Babbage's future development and growth? So the roadmap that we're working on right now is essentially we're going to make the sort of platform that we've created for building these applications and offering our services to businesses. We're gonna make that smoother and smoother as time goes on, improving the user experience and responding to industry feedback to refine and optimize the way that we do things. We're going to hopefully reduce the transaction fees within the context of, as the blockchain scales, the cost of each transaction can certainly go down. So we look forward to doing that. And we're also working on some definitely really cool tokenization strategies and things around enabling access to new types of Bitcoin output scripts and templates for tokens on top of the platform. So if you want to talk tokenization and you have an idea for a token-based platform that you want to build, we're interested in collaborating with people on those areas as well, because we're excited about some of that stuff. We've been building a lot of we're a research and development company fundamentally, and we haven't stopped researching and developing new things, and we don't intend to. So lots of cool stuff coming down the pipe. Those are the questions that I had after I kind of thought, what would people do if they watch this? So that's what I have for this one. So thank you very much for taking the time once again to listen and to understand about some of these things. We think the future for the Bitcoin SV industry is a bright one, and we are excited to maintain our independence and to continue to be a big part of it long into the future. Thank you.